Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Zeke-ollege Football. As always, I'm your host, Zeke. Today, we are going to be talking about the first AP Top 25 poll. It dropped today, earlier today, and I haven't really had a chance to look over it, but I'm going to give my initial thoughts on this first look at what voters think about the 2024 college football season and all these teams. So, first things first, what we're seeing right here, we're seeing number one is Georgia, number two, Ohio State. There was some contention that I saw there, people saying, oh, Ohio State should be first, Georgia should be second. I'm in the camp of Georgia at number one. And that's mostly based on the fact that if you look at, who's returning for Georgia, they retain their quarterback. They added in one of the best running backs in the transfer portal. They have good wide receivers. Their defense is still stout. They have only lost one game in the past 2 years, and that game was by 3 points. That's a pretty good resume. So Georgia at one, I'm fine with that. Ohio State at two, I'm also fine with. They're a very talented team. They had a lot of players come back. They added a lot in the portal. Their running back room is fantastic. Coming up, they have Quinshon Judkins back there. They have Travion Henderson back there. They still have Emeka Egbuka at wide receiver. Jeremiah Smith, the number one rated receiver in the incoming freshman class, is going to most likely make some headlines. From what I've heard from their practices, he's doing quite well. And then for quarterback, it's looking like it's going to be Will Howard. There, that's the only sort of thing that people might be a little iffy on. He was a bit up and down at Kansas State, so Ohio State certainly deserves the number two rank. Now, Oregon at three. Uh, they were also a team only lost one game last year. But that game was to Washington, and they haven't beat Washington in a while. Sorry, they lost two games, but only to one team. So they lost to Washington in week 6. They lost to Washington in the Pac-12 championship game, the final Pac-12 championship game. They're a team that has a lot of hype surrounding them. Dylan Gabriel transferring over to there. They even have Dante Moore as a backup there. Evan Stewart coming over from Texas A&M. Uh, the cornerback Jabari Muhammad going over from Washington to Oregon. They're going to be a good program. I don't have any doubts that they're going to be a good program. 3 is a little high. I would have probably had them and Texas flipped. But I understand why Oregon's at 3. And with current news, Texas being at 4, that makes sense too. If you'd asked me like maybe a week ago, I would have said Texas at 3, Oregon at 4. Uh, but Texas just lost their starting running back CJ Baxter to a torn ACL. He's out for the season, so they're gonna have to rely on their running back depth throughout the season, and that might be tested. Also, first year in a new conference, you don't know how they match up. Yes, they beat Alabama last year, but what's the likelihood that result continues? Speaking of, the Crimson Tide at 5. I don't hate that placement. It's going to be interesting to see throughout the season whether or not they can keep that up. Alabama, very good team. Historically, a very good team. Kalen DeBoer, a good coach as well. But when you lose a coach like Nick Saban, you're losing a lot of experience. You're losing a lot of the sort of intangibles that come with a coach. He could take a mediocre roster and build it into a great roster. And I don't know how Kalen DeBoer is going to do in year one, or how much patience Tide fans are going to have if he struggles early on. But 5, I'm fine with that. Ole Miss at 6 is interesting. They went and they won a New Year's Six bowl game. They have a lot of players with them still, so they still have players like Jackson Dart. They still have Prescoring at tight end. They're still a very good team, and I would not be surprised if they continue to be a very good team. 6 is a little high, I think. I would have them probably closer to the 7, 8 range, but 6 is fine. Um, I'm not too mad at that. Uh, and you can see off on the side here all the points. 46 first place votes for Georgia, 15 for Ohio State, 1 for Oregon. These all make sense. Now Notre Dame at 7, I have some issues with. Um, they were a team last year that wasn't amazing, and I looking at the pieces that they've added, I don't see anything that's really going to push the needle, to be honest. Uh, it really depends on how high you are on Riley Leonard. I think he's fine. I think he's good. But is he that much better than Sam Hartman was? I don't know about that. Um, you know, uh, did their receiver room really improve that much? You know, there's some questions there, and I'm not entirely sold on Notre Dame at 7. I would have them probably closer to the 10, 11, 12 range. Uh, I feel like they're projected higher. You can see right here they're up 7 spots from last year. Not sold on that personally. Um, Penn State over Michigan is very interesting. Michigan obviously lost a lot of talent to the draft. They lost their head coach. It's going to be a very new looking team, and they are being investigated right now by the NCAA. I will keep my mouth shut about that. I don't know what that ruling is going to do, what that ruling is going to entail. But Penn State, they haven't done anything. Uh, they still haven't beaten Ohio State recently. They still haven't beaten Michigan recently either. And you know, what have they done to prove that number 8 ranking? Again, it feels like projection more than uh past experiences, which I get. It's a preseason poll. Preseason polls tend to look pretty bad moving forward, but I think that Penn State one uh might loom large uh moving forward. Michigan, we've been over this. They've lost a lot of players. 9 for the defending national champions. I think I can tolerate it a lot more than other people might be able to. Florida State at 10 is very interesting. And that's mainly because, again, a lot of talent. When you're building these programs up and you have a good season last year, a lot of players are going to end up leaving. Florida State didn't lose at all last year. So what's the difference there? Jordan Travis is out. In comes DJ Uiagalelei. He, I think, has proven himself to be just fine, an okay starting quarterback. Um, I think Florida State at 10 is fine with me. Missouri at 11, I like. Now, again, if you've seen the series on my channel where I went through and gave a completely biased ranking, you'll know I'm a Missouri fan. I think 11 is a fair placement for us, just because we did lose some pieces on defense, but a lot of pieces staying the same on the offensive side. Uh, so you know, if the defense is in order, then they will be very good. And they also have a relatively easier schedule as well. So Missouri at 11, I can get behind. Utah at 12, I can also get behind. They were unranked at the end of last year. But that is a team that was decimated with injuries last season. Cam Rising back whenever he's under center for the Utes, they tend to do pretty well. They have their tight end Keithy's coming back as well. Brent Keithy's coming back. Um, you know, they're a team that I think underperformed last year due to injury. I would expect them to make a splash in the new Big 12, as they are the highest ranked Big 12 team coming in outside of the top 10. LSU at 13 is another school lost a lot of talent on the offensive side. Um, Again, it feels like a little bit of projection about how they view Garrett Nussmeier. It seems like they're very high on him. I haven't really seen much of Nussmeier. I'm sure he's fine. Uh, and I would be surprised if LSU uh didn't have like 8 wins at the end of the season or something like that. 8 wins, 9 wins, something around that range. I don't think they're gonna go to a New Year's Six bowl though this year. I think they just lost a little bit too much on that offensive side. Um, Clemson, again, another team that didn't really improve. Uh, this seems like they think Cade Klubnik's going to develop more, and but no work in the transfer portal at all yet again for Dabo Sweeney. So 14 is I can understand the argument. I just don't necessarily agree with the argument there. Tennessee at 15. That is again projecting Nico Yamalieva. Still learning how to say that name. Uh, to do well. Uh, Other than that, I mean, they have one of the best D linemen in the country, James Pierce Jr. But I'm trying to gather some of like where these projections are coming from. Oklahoma at 16. Uh, Again for a 10-win team last year, that makes sense. Um, I don't hate the placement at 16. Oklahoma State at 17. I think having them right next to each other is it's a little funny. Um, but yeah, completely different conferences, first year and a long, long time that they're not going to be playing each other. So we will see who gets the better end of that deal. Oklahoma State had won the last Bedlam game. It's interesting to note that we're seeing a lot of it's skewing very heavily towards Big Ten and SEC. Now, it's not surprising to me; those two have sort of taken a lot of the premier talent uh, in the premier teams, but ACC with two representatives um, within the top 15, and Big 12 with only one top 15 team, but seeing a couple stacked up here. uh, you know, Oklahoma State and then Kansas State right after them. Again, another team that seems like again projection. Avery Johnson, if you believe in him, seems like the AP voters believe in Avery Johnson. Uh, DJ Giddens back at running back, he's a good option there. They brought in Dylan Edwards from Colorado as well. Um, Again, I don't hate the placement of Kansas State at 18 there. Miami, Florida. at 19. I feel like every single year they get put in the preseason top 25, and every year they fall out of the top 25 throughout the season. This is a vote of confidence towards Cam Ward, towards Dylan Martinez. It's just, I think this is really what they're just trying to say. Hey, Miami's back. We will have to wait and see if Miami is actually back. Texas A&M at 20. Again, also very interesting. They struggled last year, did suffer some injuries, but new coach. This is saying that they really believe in Mike Elko here. Arizona at 21, a team that lost their coach. Jed Fish is out, but they say that the talent that they have, people like Noah Fafita, Tetroa McMillan, can carry them to a 21 ranking. They won a lot last year. I think having them ranked is a good idea. Um, I think 21 is a little low, to be honest. I would have them probably up over Miami, Florida, and Texas A&M, to be honest. Uh, Kansas at 22. First time we're seeing a ranked Kansas to start the season in a while. My issue with Kansas uh, is they don't they don't have depth anymore at quarterback. Uh, we know Jalen Daniels is a very talented player. I know Jalen Daniels is a very talented player, but for the life of him, he cannot stay healthy. He plays about maybe 3 games a season, 4 games a season. There was one season where he was able to play, I want to say, like 10 games, but he just gets injured. And last year and the year before that, they were able to lean on Jason Bean. This year, Bean's gone. They don't have that sort of depth anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Kansas can sort of maintain that. Lance Leipold doing a great job over there. Again, they still have Devin Neal. They still have Kobe Bryant on defense. Like, they have talented players, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that the depth is there for them. USC at 23, another team with a new conference. Uh, Again, they went 7-5 last year, lost Caleb Williams. It's a vote of confidence for Miller Moss and Lincoln Riley, really. But we'll have to wait and see um, how they do. Again, new conference. We will just have to let it all play out. NC State at 24. I like NC State in the top 25. I would have them in the top 25. Um, Grayson McCall coming in. I think he'll be better than MJ Morris and Brennan Armstrong were. Uh, I don't hate that. I don't hate that. And then Iowa to close out the top 25. Fantastic defense. Wonder if they can get their offense in check. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But overall, I expected a lot worse. A lot worse for the top 25 poll. Again, my biggest qualms, I don't think Notre Dame should be that high. Uh, and I guess I'm a little confused about teams like Miami, Florida, Texas A&M towards the bottom. Also teams like USC towards the bottom. But they're big schools. They always get this sort of national recognition towards the AP polls. But that will do it for this video. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe if you feel inclined, and stay tuned because I'm going to be posting some more content coming up for this new season. It is right around the corner, and I can't wait. But until then, have a nice day, and I will see you all next time.